We're going to talk real quick about setting up your roller the right way, what kind of tools to use for rolling. And we're not going to do any rolling. We're just going to talk about tool setup and then different products you can use to roll. And a lot of people get the wrong items, so we're going to kind of go over some of the stuff so that you can be faster, you can be better, you can do a better job rolling, and kind of what types of tools to use and how to set them up. Okay, so we've got here the best roller pole there is these Wooster Sherlock poles, and the reason they're better is because then you're not fiddling with, they have the ones that you can twist. All right, I can't do this with one hand, but on this pole you just push a button, slide this out to the right direction, and it just locks in place. See how you can hear it locking? It goes into the right place where you want it. They also have these available with a locking setup right here. Instead of this threaded style, this is an old pole, and the new ones will actually lock into that little hole that's on the Wooster roller, so that the roller doesn't want to spin when you're rolling, which saves you time because you're not stopping all the time and readjusting your roller, because all that stuff costs you man hours, costs you time. You're wanting to dip your roller, put the paint on the wall, release it to the wall, pick it up with the roller, release it to the wall. That's your whole job of rolling. And it's not just fiddling around and trying to get stuff to look all beautiful and perfect. It's getting the paint on the wall and then do that. So anyway, the type of roller frame that I found to be the best. Now I'm going to show you the kind that I don't use, because I happen to have one of these in the 7-inch, which I don't really use 7-inch rollers much anymore, because mainly the weight of the roller is so heavy. And when you're usually using a 7-inch, because you want your bucket in one hand and you have your roller in the other and you're rolling, so you don't usually dip and roll with a roller pole with a 7-inch roller. That would be just a completely waste of man hours. So here's a 7-inch roller, and this type of frame right here with the wires is not the kind of frame to get, because what happens is, see how this one is already, it's hard to turn. Okay, well, they get a little bit of paint in here, okay, or usually what happens most of the time is one of these little things gets slightly bent because it's in your truck or whatever, and a little bit bent here, and then this doesn't roll nice. When you have one of these style, they always roll. These will always roll. The cage on this here is permanently affixed in an area, and the roller snaps onto the frame by this little clip setup right here, and they always keep round and roll. They don't ever get lumpy. Well, the only time you get lumpy is if you have a really, really cheap roller, which you shouldn't be using those dollar ones from the store or whatever. Those things, they're going to cause a lot of problems with hair and stuff like that if you use those cheap rollers. So this is the type of frame to get. These are made by Wooster. That's my favorite one right there. I'm using a 9-inch roller, which most of the time, whenever I can, I use a 9-inch roller. So guys go, well, I'll use a weenie roller to do bathrooms. I'm like, okay, it takes me about 8 minutes to roll the bathroom out with the 9-inch roller, unless it's like 2 colors or something like that, and you're only doing a lid or something. Then it doesn't make any sense to get a 9-inch roller out. But if you're just doing, if you're doing it all one color, you can roll that bathroom out about 8 minutes, about 15 minutes with a weenie roller. So that's 8 minutes of loss. So anyway, that's about average guy, rolling can do it in that. So anyway, because you have a lot more dips to get the paint out of the bucket with a Slim Jim roller. All right, so real quick, the types of what are these called again? My brain goes south. Okay, the covers you use. Okay, your cover, you can use, this is a really good White Dove Purdy They have a little smoother finish, I guess, but you know, honestly, I don't see the difference in synthetic and synthetic, except for if you get the cheap ones from Home Depot or something like that. For some reason, those ones there are made out of some kind of sponge that's garbage, and they don't really work very well. But if you get a good synthetic roller from a paint store, if Dunn Edwards, whatever, most of the paint store brand ones are made with the same type of material this one is, and they're not too bad. So this is a synthetic roller. Okay, these are synthetic. This is called a lamb's wool roller. Okay, and then they have half-breed ones. Okay, there's also microfiber, which they have these in 9-inch too, and also in Slim Jim size, like these here. Okay, so they have a lot of different ones to buy. Now, this is where you can determine which one to use. Some guys say, I only use one of these. Now, can you roll a door with this? No, you can't roll a door with that. So sometimes you're doing, it depends on the job. Okay, say you don't only use this. You need to have all of these types of rollers in your toolbox at all times, because I can roll a door with this roller and make it look good. Oh yeah, you can't do that with that 3/4 nap roller. Yes, I can. I do it all the time. It's all about, there's other things that I'm going to show you in other videos about the quality of the paint you use. If you use cheap paint, you're not going to make it look good with this roller. Okay, if you use good paint, that's where it's going to pay you back right there, is that paint will flow better. So let's look at this type of roller here. When's this a good roller to use? If you're using it for walls only, it works great. It holds more paint. It releases more paint than one of these typically. But like, let's say you're doing a bathroom. Okay, you're using a different paint. You're using enamel paint in the bathroom. Maybe you're using the eggshell enamel with this, and you're using a flat paint with this, or a semi-gloss paint with this. This is when you can use a 9-inch with this, and also do your lids and your doors if you're doing 2 colors, which is mostly what everybody's doing today. I remember back in the old days in Navajo White, we used to paint a whole house in one day, no problem, 2 guys. I mean, it was, now you get 20%, 30% more money, and it takes you 3 days with 4 guys. Come on, I mean, it's just stupid. I don't know why this is happening. But that's the business right now. So anyway, let's just go on with this. Another good roller that really holds and releases paint is these microfibers. They're really good. I use these when I can. They're more expensive, so you need to manage that and figure out if you're going to be using it a lot, if you're going to do a lot of painting, it's worth it to get the microfiber. If you're only just doing a little bit and you're going to throw it away, it's better to go with just a regular Slim Jim type roller. You know, you have to think about all these things when you're doing it. You don't just grab one and just use it. And, you know, that's the way I always do it. I always think about, okay, what am I doing? How long am I going to be painting with that? And, you know, how much material am I going to go through? Is it going to be worth it for me to move to the next roller up? Is it worth it for me to use a 9-inch? I'm only doing a couple lids in the bathrooms. No, it's going to be better to use a Slim Jim. You know, is it worth it for me to, you know, am I going to do my walls in semi-gloss and in my doors the same color? Then maybe I should use a synthetic. You know, there's all those types of things that you can think about in production work versus custom work. If you're doing everything spray finish doors, okay, then that's going to be a different job. You don't do anything the same. Everything's different. Okay, if you're doing it all the same, then you have a really small menu. You need to have a larger menu. You're only selling steaks if you're doing custom work, and that's all I do is custom work. And then when the work goes away and those custom guys are gone, the customers are gone, you're sitting at home going, wow, how am I going to make some money? You need to know all these things. You need to know which tool to use for each job. Okay, so real quick, I'm going to do a roller setup and show you guys a couple tricks on how to set your roller up. So I went ahead real quick with the off time of the video, and I've set up my tape here, and a lot of you guys already know what I'm going to do, but some of the guys who don't know what I'm going to do, this is a better way to, I watch guys take tape and wrap it around the whole roller. That's the old way. That's why I did it years and years ago. We'd wrap the whole roller up with tape and then pull it off. Then we figured out that you could just set your tape up like this. I'm going to put this between my legs so I can do this with one hand, and then just defur your roller by doing this. It's really hard to do when you're on camera, guys. It's much easier. I can do this in 2 seconds. So I do that with one length of tape, then I'll pull it out even further, and I'll do the whole roller twice to get to defer it. That's one of the ways to defer your roller. And the reason you do that is so that you don't have lint, especially if you're using oil base. That was the main thing that we started doing that for, is because the oil base, as it got sticky, would pull the lint off your roller. So we'd always start with like an interior. We'd do a inside of a closet door first too. After doing that way, the slide over closet doors, we do the inside of one of those first that we're not going to be painting, and that would get the rest of the lint off. So another thing on rolling, as far as setup goes, is I've watched so many guys using paint trays to roll. Now that's the homeowner way to do it, guys. That's not the contractor method. This right here is your 2-gallon setup. You should always have 2-gallon buckets on your truck. You should always have these 7-inch grids, and these are your setups for your Slim Jim roller. There's an old hard roller. As you can see, you use that, dip your roller, get your paint loaded up, it's ready to go. Now, a lot of guys are using 18-inch rollers. Okay, the problem with using an 18-inch roller is there's a few problems with that. Okay, number one, that big ass tray you're carrying around is a pain in the rear to move around. So you're spending time, and it's heavy. You're messing with your back. You're doing a lot of things that you could do to ruin your body, as well as, you know, just to think you're saving a little bit of time. I watched the guys in Idaho using those 18-inch rollers, and I can tell you right now, most of the time it's going to be way faster to use a 9-inch roller. And I can't find my 9-inch grids right now, but they have a 9-inch grid that's just like this one, that's wider, and dip and roll out of a 5. And the reason you do that is because you can pick this up and move it so much faster. You can kick it along a concrete floor. You know, you can do a lot of things with this bucket that you can't do with that big fat roller. And every time you pull that big thing out, because what happens is you dip those big 18-inch rollers in, and then because you didn't move, you know, let's say your wall's right here where you're working. Your wall's right here where you're working, right here where this truck is. You pick your roller up out of here, you got your drop underneath you. You go ahead and pick your roller up with it's on your pole, and you pick it up and go to roll it. What happened? You know, it's right here. It's right next to where you're working. So your chance of actually dripping paint are pretty low. You get one of those big 18-inch rollers, what happens is you got it somewhere further away from your wall. So by the time you get your roller undipped and you go to pick it up and carry that big old heavy thing over to the wall, you've got paint on the ground. Now you got paint on the ground, you walk in that paint, guess what? You end up having it on somebody's sidewalk, having somewhere it's not supposed to be. It's a waste of time using those things. This is faster because, not because it holds more paint, not because it releases more paint, because you can move it. That's what it's all about. You're not painting in one spot all day long. You're painting, moving around a house or moving around a building, painting walls. There might be a time you could use one of those 18-inch rollers and benefit from it, you know, possibly if you're doing a spray and back roll or something like that. But what's going to happen is your roll man is going to burn out in like 3 hours, because that thing's heavy. Okay, he's gonna be burning out in like 3 hours. He's done. You know, I've done 90 gallons with 2 guys in one day with this setup, back rolling. One guy back rolling, one guy spraying. Okay, 90 gallons. Okay, we've done that, no problem. It was in I think about an 8-hour period too. You know, we wouldn't normally work more than 8 hours, so 90 gallons in 8 hours is super fast. Okay, that's moving all day. You're not stopping or anything else. So if you can do more than 90 gallons in 8 hours with 2 guys using an 18-inch roller, maybe you should do it that way. All right. So anyway, those are the setups that I use. They're the fastest way to do it. The least mess. Okay. And when you want to use a 9-inch roller is when you can, and when it's going to benefit you, and when it's going to pay for that roller, because the roller costs a little more money. When it's something small, you want to use your Slim Jim roller, touch-ups, doing a smaller area, sometimes doing doors. Sometimes it's just easier to use a Slim Jim because you can hold the bucket while you're working. Okay, this one here you're going to have to leave on the ground. You have to use a pole. So sometimes it works out better to use these. So like if you're doing recessed panel doors and you're going to just roll them, brush them and roll them, you're not going to spray them, then using the Slim Jim can be good, and chase it with a brush and get a nice finish out of it still. You can use one of these if it's a slab doors or something like that. You're going to go through, and if you really want a smooth finish, you can chase it right afterwards. You can roll it out with this, chase it with a brush, and back brush it, they call it. I never call it that. We just chased it with brushes, and you just chase it with a brush while it's still wet. Don't let it start to set up. That's, you guys hit it way too late. You got to do it. You got to be fast to do that. Okay. You got to be really fast. Get that brush out and just hit it right away before it starts to lose the solvents. Not the solvents, but the water is the solvent for water-based paint. So anyway, so those are the roll setups, and that's what I use, and that's what I recommend. I'll talk to you in the next video.